Welcome back, everyone, to another explainer. So glad you're joining me today because we're about to dive into a massive, and I mean absolutely massive, paradigm shift when it comes to tackling one of the most stressful things we ever have to do: timed exams. I mean, if you've ever felt that awful, crushing anxiety of the clock ticking down, or, that total frustration of getting a grade back and seeing a really silly mistake that you totally knew how to fix, yeah, you're going to want to stick around for this one. We're going to dismantle a deeply ingrained habit that's honestly probably holding you back right now, and we're going to replace it with a strategy that, well, it sounds totally backward at first, but trust me, it is the absolute key to mastering your accuracy. Now, I want you to picture this. It's a completely universal experience. We have all been there, right? Okay, so you're taking a test. You finish the last question, you glance up at the clock, and boom, you've got 5 perfectly good minutes left. So what do? Naturally, you go back to check your work. You read through your answers, maybe you run your finger over the math, you nod to yourself, and then you hand it in feeling pretty good. But then a week goes by, you get the test back, and no way. There it is. A glaring, super obvious mistake sitting right there in the middle of a problem you literally remember double checking. It's the worst, isn't it? You had the time, you did the review, so why on earth do we miss mistakes that we just spent time checking over? Well, here is the harsh truth. And look, it's a really tough pill to swallow because it completely goes against the classic advice we've been fed since, kindergarten? Teachers, parents, everyone always says, make sure you look over your work before you hand it in, right? But the reality, at least according to the source material we're breaking down today, is that simply looking over your work just doesn't do the trick. It doesn't work. It's actually fundamentally flawed. It gives us this totally false sense of security, but it's not actually doing anything to improve our accuracy. So we're going to bust this myth wide open today and figure out what you actually should be doing. Okay, so let's jump right in. Section 1, the looking over trap. See, when we finish a test and go back to review it, we kind of fall into this illusion of productivity. We really think we're being careful and diligent, but honestly, we're mostly just staring blankly at the paper. We're passively observing our past thoughts instead of actually challenging them. And here is the fatal flaw with doing that. When you just review your existing work, your brain is incredibly biased. You're basically just retracing the exact same neural pathways you used to solve the problem 5 minutes ago. If you made a logical leap, or maybe a bad assumption, or just a really simple math error on your first pass, your brain is highly, highly likely to just blindly agree with that exact same flawed logic on the second pass. You aren't checking your work at all. You're just nodding at your own mistakes. You look at a wrong answer and your brain just goes, yep, that's what we decided 10 minutes ago. Looks good to me. You're literally trapped inside your own initial perspective. Which brings us to the core shift. Section 2, the speed strategy. Okay, so if looking over our work is a trap built on our own cognitive bias, well, we need a method that completely bypasses that bias, right? We have to short-circuit the brain's habit of just agreeing with whatever's already on the page. Enter the speed strategy. This means finishing the test as fast as possible to buy yourself time for a complete redo from scratch. Now hold on, I know exactly what you're thinking. Rushing through a test? That sounds like a horrible idea. Like a total recipe for making way more careless errors, right? And hey, you're right, finishing fast definitely goes against every single instinct of a careful, focused learner. But bear with me here because the underlying logic is honestly brilliant. The speed is not about being sloppy, not at all. The speed is an investment. You are buying yourself literally the most valuable resource you can have in a testing environment, the time to start completely over. And that leads us perfectly into Section 3, redoing from scratch. Now, the only reason you rush that first pass is specifically so you can execute this second pass. And listen carefully, this second pass is not a review. It's not a casual glance. It is a total, fundamental restart of the problem. This is literally the only way to catch those hidden errors that your biased brain is desperately trying to ignore. So let's break down the actual timeline of how you put this into motion. Step 1, finish fast. You get through the material, you make your absolute best educated attempts, but you do not linger. Just keep moving. Step 2, ignore old answers. Now, this is the hardest part for sure. When you loop back around, you have to physically cover up or just completely ignore what you wrote the first time. Seriously, do not look at your previous math. Don't read your previous essay outline. Step 3, redo from scratch. You solve the problem all over again, either on a blank space or a piece of scratch paper, completely independently of your very first attempt. So the really crucial thing to notice here is the huge contrast between these two approaches. Looking over just leaves you completely biased to your old logic. It's kind of like grading your own paper while you're already 100% convinced you got an A. But redoing from scratch? That forces a totally fresh perspective. Think about it. If you make a mistake on your first, really fast pass, but then you redo the problem completely from scratch on your second pass and get a completely different answer, boom, a massive alarm bell goes off in your head. You now know definitively that one of those attempts is totally wrong. And now you can spend your remaining time figuring out which one it is. See? You've completely bypassed that mental trap.
All right, let's bring it home. Section 4, Mastering Test Accuracy.
By leaning into this totally counterintuitive method, you're actually taking speed, which, let's be honest, is usually the enemy of accuracy, and you're using it to guarantee optimal accuracy. It's amazing. You're transforming your testing experience from this terrifying single-pass tightrope walk into a solid system with built-in redundancy. You basically become your own independent auditor. And the benefits here are just huge. First off, it bypasses that initial flawed logic entirely, so you completely avoid the trap of just nodding at your own mistakes. Second, it actually catches hidden errors because you're actually doing the work again, not just reading it. Third, it forces complete revision. I mean, you literally cannot just skim a problem if you're forcing yourself to solve it from zero. And finally, and I think this is the most absolutely crucial part, it replaces the passive act of reviewing with the active, aggressive act of proving. You aren't sitting there asking, does this look right? No, you are demanding of yourself, can I prove this is right by doing it completely over again and getting the exact same result? It's a total shift in mindset, guys. It definitely takes discipline, and you're going to need some practice to get your pacing right, for sure. But the results? They are totally undeniable. By giving yourself the actual time to completely redo the work, you are unlocking a level of accuracy that just staring at a finished piece of paper is literally never going to achieve. So I want to leave you with a thought, a little challenge as we wrap up today's explainer. The next time you're sitting in that room, the next time the pressure is totally on and that clock is ticking down, are you going to fall back into the trap and just look it over? Or will you embrace the speed strategy, buy yourself that extra time, and prove it from scratch? The choice is totally yours, but I definitely know which one the focused learner is going to make. Thank you guys so much for joining me today, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.